G'day and welcome to the Investor Motivation Podcast. My name's Robert Gowdy. I'm hanging out in Melbourne and I've got Amy in Horsham. How are you?
Yeah, I'm back at the office, manning the desk. If anyone is watching on YouTube, I'm in Rob's office today. So I've got the family photo behind me. Both got different backgrounds today.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm in Melbourne for the Iron Maiden concert, so that's a bit exciting. And yeah, what's been happening in Horsham, Amy? Windy?
Oh, actually, it's been okay. It's been windy lately. On Monday was an especially bad day to be a wheelie bin around here.
Yeah,
Was rubbish flying everywhere, bins all over the roads. But today is actually quite pleasant. Had the doors and windows open to my house this morning, and it's just
beautiful.
a nice breeze coming through.
Gout, the monster Gruder would have loved that, Amy.
Yeah, he does. Loves the wind in his hair.
Don't all dogs. Yeah, I was down in Melbourne at responsible manager training and yeah, going through all the very complex laws of our industry. The industry, the laws that have been put in place to help protect investors, yeah, has made things really complex and hard to understand for consumers. But I think today's focus, we're not going to bore people with that sort of stuff. That's for us to worry about. Today's focus, I thought, would be a really nice discussion on what people should expect from a first appointment with a financial advisor or financial planner.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have had a lot of new appointments coming through the doors because of this podcast and the and work we've been doing on YouTube over many years. So I thought, yeah, it's a great way to just say what can people expect and what do people also need to be open and upfront with during an initial appointment, because it is a two-way conversation. There needs to be information sharing on both sides to be able to make the most out of that initial appointment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know when we go in, we're very open with our strategy and what we think clients, should be doing. We definitely don't hide behind any curtains and retain the intellectual property we have. We let people know, and I think that's a key part to that openness and trust building process that a first appointment is. And yeah, we've had varying experiences over the years where people that 98% of people just are happy to lay down on the line because they're there for a reason. That they need help, and it's up to us to provide the guidance and to show them a path where things can be okay. But yeah, we'll go through how we do that, and I suppose how I've seen some other strategies, which might be a bit more on the American sales pitch strategy, and we'll cover that off pretty early on in the piece. But yeah, really good discussion about how, I suppose, where I like our clients to get to, Amy,
Mm-hmm.
to help with them their next decision making and what they do, whether they need a financial advisor or not, or whether they can deal with us as people, as advisors, and as a business.
Yep, absolutely. But before we launch into that, on behalf of the Investor Motivation podcast, we would like to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we are recording today and pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Cool. Thanks, Amos. So it's probably worthwhile just going through as per our process at Consortium Private Wealth.
Mm-hmm.
If someone sees some marketing or they say, "Hey, go and have a chat to Amy Lehman. She's an awesome young person, knows her stuff, really passionate," and they ring up or go online and make the appointment.
Yep.
What's our first steps there, Amy? I suppose it's worthwhile just what happens pre to the actual conversation.
Yeah, great point. So at Consortium, where we both are, we will send out a welcome email which has a bit of an intro questionnaire in it. It's a lot of the basic details: your name, date of birth, some of your upcoming goals that you might have, and then just a base understanding of your assets and liabilities, income, so that we can start to piece a picture together of what information would be most relevant to share with you during that first appointment.
Yep.
I
And
think
and
it
we, yeah. Sorry,
I
Amy.
was going to say, before we started recording today, we did mention that there are some people that, and all the strategy that we can put forward to a client is publicly available information. People can YouTube and Google and watch all of our podcasts and hear all these different strategies that we educate about. But it's really understanding and piecing together what is relevant to the person sitting in front of you, and what things, I guess, the opportunity cost of other strategies versus other strategies. So it is
Yeah,
really worthwhile disclosing some of that information up front to allow for the most beneficial appointment for people.
yeah. No, I think I've seen the opposite with that, but um, particularly on that first form that we sent out, we just say, what is the reason for to get advice?
Yeah.
And that can be some very short sentence for some clients, and it can be paragraphs for others. Some people don't know what the future looks like other than retirement soon, and
Yeah.
that's the start we need. It's a huge help. Um, but yeah, what I've seen in the past where some sales techniques can be Amy, please tell me what you would like to achieve, and
Mm-hmm.
and you can go have a great 5 minute conversation around what you might want to achieve, and without giving any strategy, without any guidance. And if I just say, well, Amy, based on you wanting to retire at age 52, um, you know, if we helped you achieve that, would you be happy with that? And then, of course, you say, yes,
Sign
I
on the
would,
dotted line.
but you can tell me how you might do that. Give me some
Yeah.
guidance. Show me that you got some passion. Show me you got some knowledge.
Yeah.
I think that would be good, please, before I just sign up to a fee, an expensive fee to get advice without you actually imparting some sort of strategy
Yeah.
and know-how. Show me some passion, mate. And that was I've seen
Yeah.
that done where yeah people I've chatted to and other advisors that this is our strategy, and I think, wow, how on earth could I sign up to that in any other industry? I want to see
Yeah.
I want to see some passion.
That's not to pump my own tires up, but there was an appointment that I had probably a month ago when I met with this lovely couple and they had been to a previous advisor before coming in and seeing us. And they just said to me at the end of the appointment, "Look, we'll be honest, we've seen another financial advisor, but you are miles ahead. With the other advisor, it felt like we were walking into a car dealership and the car was covered with the cloth and they were just trying to sell us that car. But how on earth are we supposed to buy a car we haven't seen before?" So it was very much that aspect of, oh yes, we'll be able to help you. There's lots of strategies we have in our minds. Sign here, pay this big fee, and then we'll help. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think our strategy at Consortium is very much different to that, and I'm very glad that it is different to that.
yeah. Now, whether that's obviously I've been doing this for 26 years, whether it's because Amy and I live in a small town of around probably 20,000 people. It's a rural farming community, so the we don't get people just kicking tires and trying to get information off us and not wanting to deal with us. So we've been very lucky with that, and and as we speak to people all around Australia, it's still the same that people appreciate knowledge and passion and being upfront to say
Yeah.
to guide people. This is what the future can look like, and how we provide that that future, so we can cover off that more depth, is because I think it's just vital to know that if you rock up to see a financial advisor, what should you expect? I think you should
Yeah.
expect to see you're broadly going to know what these people would do for you. What
Yeah.
is the
Exactly.
strategy?
Yeah. And it is worth mentioning that during a initial or even a second appointment with a financial advisor, we aren't legally allowed to give specific personal recommendations during those appointments. We do have to legally put that advice in writing in the form of a statement of advice. So the first appointment really will be understanding your scenario and educating on the strategies available to you, but not us saying we recommend you put X amount of money into this area, invest this way.
Yes, yep. It's definitely very high level, but it is the strategy. It is very clear the strategy. It may not be where money might go. It
Mm.
would, for me, it is about the right structure. You know,
Yep.
how would we reduce tax? How would we handle this capital gains? How do we
Yep.
reduce tax moving forward up until retirement? And then, in retirement, what assets, should you continue to own? What assets, may you choose to sell because of these reasons, and that
Yeah.
education process. But to get there, I feel as though for us to be that open and transparent about what it looks like, we're imparting a lot of our knowledge front end. So once we understand clients' goals and objectives and really what makes them tick, what's important to them, once they've given us that information, and then we understand the assets and liabilities and the income, you know, the income now and their income needs in the future, then we can start to piece together really what it can look like. And one of the ways that we do that, and this is often mostly happens in 90% of our first appointments, because people turn up with, they can't see the forest for the trees. They are in the forest. It's busy. They can't see the big picture. And I generally can see that. I feel very lucky that I see things very clearly, and it's easy with that helicopter view to do that. But yeah, we do projections for nearly all our clients, at least 90%. In our more complex scenarios, we may not go. That might be the second appointment, but I think it'd be worthwhile if you can just let people know, what our projections look like, and why we do them, Amy.
Yeah, so a big benefit of disclosing people's assets, liabilities, income needs, and future goals, if that's big expenses for travel, upgrading houses, whatever it might be, even downsizing, we can put all of these figures into the projector. If their goal is to pay off debt at retirement date or in X amount of years' time, we plug all of that in, and it gives us a lifetime view of expected wealth, as well as if any Centrelink benefits come into play when assets reduce to a certain level. So it is extremely worthwhile doing. We can do that from a current situation where there is no advice at all, and if people are just doing what they're doing with no extra strategy, what that looks like. And then we can also do it after the strategy's been given, and we've got that idea to show the benefit, which is amazing.
Yeah, and that's where I feel as though that when people come here and they're just a blank page, so it's not our bag, we don't know what to do, guide us. And we go through this and we make it personalised to them. And none of these, no decade-long projections are ever going to be perfect and 100%. And things change, so we always make sure people are mindful of that. But if people say, we want 70 grand per year, and we want to have these holidays, and we plug it in, and we say, well, we may expect conservatively this inheritance in approximately 20 years' time, or whatever they know, we can plug this in. We can make it hyper personalised to these people, and this is where I see clients have that aha moment or that sigh of relief, where they just melt into their chair a little bit and say, "Oh wow, we're there," or "This feels good," or "If we make these changes, this will get us there." So there is a pathway. There's never not a pathway.
And it's especially true for when people are nearing retirement and they are just holding on and still working, even though the body's starting to slow down, the mind's starting to slow down a little bit. But they just need that encouragement of the projector to show, if you did retire tomorrow, you've got enough money to fund you to life expectancy. And that's that real slump in the chair moment, and just happiness that what they have done is enough so far.
Yeah, and I got a really interesting one on TikTok yesterday from a couple, I think might be in New South Wales, and 50, and here are our assets. We've got no debt. We want to work 2 more years. So to my age at 52, will we have enough, to live off $90,000 per year? Now, it might be pretty close to them. I think they were talking about $1.8 million in financial assets. So it's going to be a really interesting one to project. But these are some of those moments to say, well, okay, well, two more years worth of work, and these are high income earners. It's probably not. I'm not sure what those balloons were, Amy. I'm not sure what I did to do that. We're on Riverside recording this, so for those, there is a video that'll be on YouTube. You can check out the balloons. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, because people might come in with, hey, can we do this? And yeah, you might not have enough quite yet. You may need to work 3 more years to achieve this. And at least people know, and that provides them that comfort and the confidence.
Yeah, especially when they are very high income requirements throughout retirement and people have lived a very luxurious lifestyle pre-retirement. It's just understanding, do we need to cut back or can I maintain it? And if I do want to maintain it, how much longer do I need to work? How much financial assets do I need to retire? What is that, golden lump sum that everybody wants to know to be able
Yes.
to retire and retire well?
Yeah. So I think if we just go through some of the real key benefit, the key things that people should leave, their first appointment with Amy, I think, and these are feelings as much as outcomes. But I think the feeling is if the advisor is really open and honest with their transfer and giving with, hey, here's broadly what we would look to do for you, and that shows that there is a lot of trust in the advisor and the person they're dealing with, and that means that if they're open and honest, it means that you should walk out with a feeling of trust.
Absolutely. It's knowing that the advisor has all of these strategies top of mind that they know can implement for you. They've potentially shown you some of the benefits of doing that, and them knowing that it's going to be taken care of for them. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like we said before, all the strategy we give, we've probably talked about on videos before, you could probably Google, but it's knowing that this person, this advisor, has selected all of these different strategies and put them together for your benefit, and will actually implement that for you too, because it's one part knowing what to do, but it's actually doing it as well, because people are busy. They want to spend their time with their family, with work, whatever it is that they want to do, and they just want to be able to outsource that thing and know the person that they're outsourcing to is competent and has the expertise in the area.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that open and honest imparting of knowledge and education. So I think if people walk out, have a feeling of geez, I know a lot more, than what I did, and there was an educational side to it. I believe that is really important, because if I've always been a huge fan, if we educate people and we build their knowledge, they will be, in a position to make informed decisions, and that's a huge part of our role. And in a way, we are educators. We're teaching people what to do, and in the same way that my personal trainer is teaching me what to do. My accountant is give me enough knowledge, and I'll so I understand what's happening. But ultimately, I'm also saying, do it for just tell me what to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that you sort of know what's happening, but you also have the trust and your knowledge, that being told the right stuff.
Guided by the professional, and that really builds a lot of trust, definitely.
Yep.
And it also empowers the client, because they know what is happening, and we've hopefully built them up to a level of education for them to know exactly what we are doing and why, so they're empowered to know that they're comfortable with the choices that we are making and they are also making.
Yes. Yep. So I think what's another thing that they should leave an appointment with? How should they feel, or what do you think they should know, Amy?
I think it's really important for us to set expectations as well, which we do mainly with that projector of knowing when people are spending too much. And in the past, we have enforced some spending policies for clients that just seem to want to spend more than they have. So it's setting expectations of what the future can look like. 100% people should be walking away with that feeling and knowing when they need to cut back or when they can spend more.
All right, that's a really good point. So perhaps an advisor that's, and I know I do this, hopefully in a reasonably tactful way, but dealing with someone that will actually tell you that's not a great idea, and we have seen people come in and that not have tremendous wealth, but still want to buy a a motorhome worth $180,000, and yet their assets don't scream, or their assets are nowhere near the sort of levels that they should be putting that amount of money into something like that, but they just want to do it, and without considering should I just hire one or lease one for a bit or something. So I suppose having having an advisor that will call out that great idea, but it's actually not a great idea. Here are the
Yeah.
risks you take on. Here's the income you'll lose by, putting nearly 200 grand into a motorhome or whatever the outcome is. But where people, know what they want, but whether they can or should, having an advisor that will actually be open and honest with people enough to say, not a great idea. Have you thought about this?
Yeah. Or even when it is the case that they can afford to do one thing or the other, but it's having, or the advisor setting that expectation with the client to say, if you did do this, which we can show you on the projector that you can afford to do it, but the opportunity cost is this. And if
Yes.
you don't buy that asset, if that might be an investment property somewhere else or a holiday home, whatever it might be, and instead had that money within superannuation, boringly invested into the markets, compounding returns, the end figures would look like this. And
Yep.
sometimes that's not important to people at all. They don't want to leave any sort of inheritance to kids or family or anything. They're happy to spend the money and live the life they want to live. But I think it's a great thing that the advisor has that trust built already and the relationship to let the client make the most informed decision by showing that opportunity cost.
Yeah. And I can think of a time when, one of, and Mike turned into a very close friend of mine. But yeah, retired from Melbourne, moved back to Perth, where he had a lot of family. He said, "Right, I'm going to buy a property." I said, "Don't buy a property. You're going to smash the amount of financial assets that you've got. Go and have fun. So just rent." And he always, he's not with us anymore, but would always pat me on the back and say, "Rob, that was the best advice, that I didn't buy property," because he, moved from Perth back to Adelaide to Melbourne, and moved around so often. He had this flexibility to do that, and he had the income to, the financial assets to it, which he wouldn't have had if he went and bought a property. So, yeah, I think you need an advisor that's going to call out the stuff that, although you might think or say you want it, it may not be the best thing.
Yeah, and I guess it's with strategy as well, and why people choose to do, property, and that's what's shoved down everyone's throats here in Australia. But it's because they actually aren't aware of the other options available to them. So it is very much our job, and as financial advisors, we are legally bound to act in the best interests of clients. So we
Yep.
will never, and we're not conflicted with any product providers, so we'll never push somebody in one direction because there's no benefit for us, there's no benefit for the client for us to do that. So
Yeah.
we always will be assessing the markets as a whole and acting in the best interest of clients, and that means it's also our obligation to be able to compare different asset classes, different lifestyle choices, and make it known to a client when something might not be the best financial decision, but if that's their personal choice or they have an emotional attachment to something, then they want to keep that asset, then that's completely fine as long as they're made aware of that opportunity cost always at the end of the day.
Yeah. Absolutely. So obviously walking out with obviously clear direction as
Yeah.
to, what the future might look like via the projections we do, the discussions around, what tax structure to use that will save tax now and in the future, broadly what investments that we may invest into. That often happens at the second meeting, after some educational material is set out. A big one. I think people should broadly know what the cost of advice would be initially and ongoing. I think they should know that front end.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've always been really good at making that known because we don't want to waste people's time if they don't see the value in paying the upfront or the ongoing cost. They want that ongoing relationship, and vice versa. If a client's not willing to, have that relationship, then we'll help as many other people that want that relationship with us.
Yeah, absolutely. That works both ways. So we want to make sure, and this is where we always provide that free initial chat with clients,
Yeah.
just to see if we can help. And I know some groups like to have a $550 upfront charge, and that's to see if these people are are keen, how whether they'll be clients or not, to see how serious they are. But I've sort of always shied away from that. I understand why some advisors want to get rid of the tire kickers. I suppose that's why they do that. But I think I don't feel comfortable asking for an upfront fee for that initial appointment when we don't know if we can help.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
So, and then, yeah, to date, I would say, Amy, and obviously you're newer to the industry than myself, that
Mm.
do you still feel as though that's still a very relevant way to do it, to give people the opportunity to see if we can help?
Absolutely. And I think that people are quite fee adverse to advice as a probably a general consensus, because yeah, people want to protect their wealth as much as possible, which is very, very fair. So I think keeping the barrier to entry to see a financial advisor very low is extremely important, because we want to convey how much we can benefit people, and we want to, the only way to convey that message is for them to get their bums in the door talking to us. So I don't want to
Yep.
have any barrier to entry for anybody to come seek advice with
Yep.
us.
Fantastic. So that's the initial fee, the cost for the initial advice and implementation, and then the fees on an ongoing basis. I think people should walk out broadly knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversations you and I have had recently on that ongoing part, it hasn't been black or white. It's been a little, shades of grey. Nothing's black and white because it depends on, we don't know what structure we'll land with. Is it going to be a self-managed super fund? Is it going to be a public offer fund? But we give people some, broad ideas of what that cost will look like. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Amy?
No, I hope people know what we expect of them during the first appointment. I think that's really important. We did have one earlier on in this month that, they were quite hesitant to actually share any of their figures about what their asset base was or their liability
Yep.
base. And I think that's the first time I've ever heard you during an appointment say, well, to be honest, if you don't share that information and be transparent with us, we can't do our jobs and be transparent with you. So that was almost a calling of appointment early moment when, yeah, I've never seen that, I guess, happen before. But it's especially applicable because we can't help people if we don't know what they need help with.
Mm. And in that case study where the client said, "Oh, okay, no worries, I understand," and then we're able to provide the projections that were hyper personalised to him, and at the end of it, I think there was this great feeling of, oh wow, that's there's the path,
Yeah.
and there was definitely a sense of that was more than what I expected, and that makes me feel good to know.
Yeah, that client didn't expect us to give that much information. And I always love when you meet with one member of the couple for that initial appointment and they go, okay, I really need to get my spouse in for the next appointment because they just found it so valuable. I think
Yeah,
that's a really awesome moment.
yeah, and I think when it comes to, people need to understand, when dealing with financial advisor, we are bound by privacy laws, confidentiality. These are legal requirements.
Mm-hmm.
We are in strife if we step outside of that. So
Yep.
we can broadly talk about case studies, but people's personal information is very very well kept. In our systems and in our minds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fantastic. I think we've done that quite good justice, Amy. I hope, and I hope people, that's a help for people, when they embark on a journey of getting advice, if they feel overwhelmed by money. And the one thing, we deal with some very smart people that are doing most things right, but
mm,
nearly always there's some bits that they just don't know that they don't know, and there's always value added,
yeah.
and sometimes that can just be that, that investment, that psychological piece of knowing, it's not, not just where to invest, where not to invest, and then when people are living life, knowing what to worry about. I think that's an important piece that I love to spend time on, that to say, well, yeah, get things set up well, and then you can go and live life and go and have fun. You don't need to hit refresh on your portfolio on a daily basis. That's as important as anything.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I
Mm.
think we've definitely covered off on that one. But if anybody does have any follow up questions on this topic or any other topics, they're welcome to leave a comment on our YouTube at Investor Motivation, or you can find us our website, Consortium Private Wealth. You can send an email through on there. Otherwise, we're also on TikTok and Instagram. Rob Gowdy Financial Advice, or Rob Gowdy,
Uh,
yep.
just Rob Gowdy, I think.
Gowdy,
Yep.
yep. And then the Wealth Diaries for myself.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Amy. Awesome to have a chat, and we'll see everyone. We'll see or hear everyone later on. See
All
you,
right,
Amy.
till next
Thanks,
time,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.